Joseph here with another video, and today I'm going to share with you some recent additions to the collection, and there are a couple of blues albums and a couple of blue notes. So let's get started. First up, the blues. The first album, The Great B.B. King. It's on the United label, and this is one I recently picked up online, and you can see it's got a great album cover with B.B. smoking a cigarette in a tux. And once again, it's on the United label. The cover is a little bit beat up, but I got this for a real good price. United is sometimes known as a budget label, but these are all recordings from the mid to early 50s that were released in the 60s as like a compilation. But BB's in outstanding form on here. He does a great version of Sweet 16 where he stretches out a bit. I'm Gonna Quit My Baby, I Was Blind, Sneaking Around, great album. If you ever see these on United, don't sleep on them, because United would sometimes release other blues artists also about the same time. And you can get these albums at a rather cheap price. So this first one, The Great B.B. King, B.B. King and his orchestra. Another album I got from the same seller is Clifton Chenier. This one is called Sings the Blues. And you might not be familiar with Clifton Chenier. He plays a form of music called Zydeco that comes out of Louisiana. And it's primarily, as you can see, played on the accordion. Most of the primary leaders in Zydeco music play the accordion. And Clifton was called the king of Zydeco music, and he really was, because when he gets that accordion pumping, it's a sound to behold. I was able to hear Clifton a couple of times live at a small club in Redondo Beach in the late 70s, and he was in great form. Just really had the place jumping and hopping. And actually, by that time, he was already in bad health. I believe he would get dialysis while he was on the road. Saw Clifton a couple years later at the Long Beach Blues Festival. He wasn't not nearly as in such great shape. But on these Arhoolie albums, you can't go wrong. Clifton and his band. His brother, Cleveland Chenier, plays a rub board. There's a guy called, his name is Robert St. Julian on drums, who really is powerful. And once again, Clifton Chenier on Arhoolie. Clifton Sings the Blues. Now we switch gears to the Blue Notes, and a recent addition to my Blue Note collection from the Classic series is Bobby Hutcherson, Harold Land, San Francisco. This is somewhat of like a funk jazz excursion with Bobby and Harold. Joe Sample on piano is really outstanding. He contributes a couple of songs, and there's one tune on here called Prince Tie, and some people have described it as somewhat like a silent way type groove, really kind of spacey and kind of hard to describe, but it's one of my favorite cuts there. It seems to be everybody's favorite. It's called Prince Tie. There's also a song called that's got a really nice groove. Then what's really good here also is the bass player. John Williams on bass, Mickey Roker on drums. But once again, Joe Sample shines throughout. Once Bobby Hutcherson, Harold Land, can't go wrong. It's a great addition to the Classic series, Bobby Hutcherson and Harold Land, San Francisco. Another album from the Classic series. This one is called The Eminent J.J. Johnson, Volume 1, Bebop. Once again, J.J. Johnson was a master at trombone, playing fast lines in the bebop tradition. But he's also a beautiful ballad player. On this one, he plays Loverman. Really beautiful, great tone. And also, there's a burning version of Get Happy. On this one, it's Clifford Brown on trumpet, Jimmy Heath on tenor, John Lewis piano, Percy Heath on bass, and Kenny Clark on drums. The sound on this is excellent also, considering it's done in the early 50s. And this is what has been getting a lot of play on the turntable lately, The Eminent J.J. Johnson. And last but not least, the latest addition to my Tone Poet collection. This is the remarkable Carmel Jones, and this is it's not a gatefold. Some of these Pacific Jazz releases that are Tone Poets don't get the gatefold release because there wasn't enough photos or any photos to warrant the gatefold. But this is a great release. Carmel is in great form. The other musicians here are Harold Land once again, Frank Strazieri, Gary Peacock, who you might be familiar with his work with Bill Evans in the trio, Leon Pettis on drums. Carmel plays in a beautiful lyrical style, warm sound. He kind of sometimes reminds me a little bit of Blue Mitchell, but he's got a sound and approach that's all his own. And I really enjoy this album. He does a great version of Duke Ellington's I'm Gonna Go Fishing. Really gets to stretch out on that 11 minutes long ballad, Come Rain or Come Shine. All in all, an outstanding tone poet. And a story about Carmel Jones is when I was in my teens, I heard on the jazz radio station there in Los Angeles that Carmel Jones was going to be at the Lighthouse. So I told my dad, because we were frequently go to the Lighthouse, see the different groups that would come into town. And my dad knew of Carmel Jones, was a fan of his trumpet playing. So we decided to head out there, my dad and my mom and me. But when we got there, we saw on the billboard there that it was not Carmel Jones, it was Alvin Jones. So my dad kind of backed off for a minute. He said, well, should we go and check out Alvin Jones? Of course we knew who he was, the great drummer from John Coltrane's quartet. And it's a good thing we did, because that particular group that Alvin had was that famous group that was recording live at the Lighthouse during that run, the group that included Dave Liebman, Steve Grossman on sax, and also Gene Perla on bass. They would record that famous Live at the Lighthouse album. Not the night that we were there, but it was during that run. And man, we were treated to some incredible music due to my mistake for mistaking Carmel Jones for Alvin Jones. So it was a good mistake. But capping the albums, B.B. King and his orchestra on United. Clifton Chenier sings the blues on Arhoolie. Harold Land, Bobby Hutcherson, San Francisco, classic Blue Note. The eminent J.J. Johnson, another Blue Note classic release. And last but not least, the remarkable Carmel Jones. Hope you like this video, like, subscribe, and that's it. Joseph out.